Chapter 1. Hold on, let me have a drink first. I don't talk a whole lot because I work from home, so. Okay, here we go. You killed Santa. Gaston's mouth fell open as he stared at the strange man lying in the dirt. No, Jane shook her head and slammed the car door shut before creeping toward the body. City Park was eerily quiet. Not a soul in sight to witness the whoopsie she'd just committed yet another benefit of existing under the cover of night. Who said vampires were damned? I killed someone, yeah, but Santa isn't real. She toed the man's shoulder with her boot, but he didn't move. Sure, he had white hair and a beard. He was a big guy, and hell, he looked like he might have been a jolly dude, but Santa? Come on. It was a week before Christmas. What the hell would Santa Claus be doing in New Orleans? Anyway, Santa was nothing more than a ploy made up by parents to finally get their kids to behave for at least a month out of the year. Jane knew this because it was the only thing that worked on her when she was little. Tell a 6-year-old Santa wouldn't bring her a pony and she'd eat her damn broccoli. Brussels sprouts, too. Gaston gently shut the passenger door of Genevieve, his beloved Maserati Quattroporte, and ran his hand over the dent in the hood. I forget just how young you are, ma chère. Santa Claus is most definitely real. I've known him since I was a wee tot. Jane scoffed. This had to be the tallest of tall tales she'd ever heard from the ancient vampire. It was just like Gaston to blow off a possible manslaughter charge with a joke. Right, you know Santa, and I'm the Easter Bunny. The Easter Bunny is a fae who chooses to take the form of a rabbit to honor Oster, the goddess of spring. Santa assumes a human form. She gaped at Gaston, trying to decide if he was yanking her chain, but he looked as serious as could be. He wore his dark hair pulled back in a band at the nape of his neck, and his ice blue eyes were calculating, cutting between the dead man and Jane. The muscles in his jaw were tense, which meant he was grinding his teeth, which meant for like the third time since she'd met the man, he was actually concerned about a situation. In fact, he hadn't said a word about the damage she'd done to Genevieve, and he loved that car more than he loved Cuervo-tainted O-negative. Well, shit. You're not kidding, are you? I never kid about the Fae. She looked at the dead guy, tilting her head as the reality sank in. Oh my goat cheese pizza. I killed Santa. And holy crap, Santa is real. Well, Santa was real until she ran him over. She had so many questions, but she put a pin in it. Right now, they had a body to dispose of. Jane Devereaux would not be charged with murder. Wait, Santa is a fae? Aren't they immortal? Gaston's brow furrowed. Every being has a weakness. Much like a stake to the heart can kill a vampire, it appears being run over by a sports car will be the end of this fae. The man groaned, and a strange bubbling sound emanated from his throat. Jane's pulse sprinted as she kneeled by his side. Did you hear that, Gaston? He's not dead. I'm not the girl who single-handedly destroyed the nation's most precious holiday. This was just her luck, wasn't it? She'd begged Gaston for months to let her drive his Maserati. Ethan got to drive it, so why not her? And he'd finally given in. But the first time she got behind the wheel, she lost control and plowed into the park, running over Santa Claus of all people. Gaston stood behind her, so she had to crane her neck to look at him. Clasping his hands behind his back, he shook his head and made a tisking sound. Asher will be along any minute now. You've got to turn him before the Reaper arrives. Turn him? Oh, hell no. Not so fast, Lestat. He might live. And she was not sinking her fangs into Santa's neck. The dial on her moral compass might have shifted a bit since she became a vampire, but to turn the man who brought joy to millions of children around the world into a creature of the night? That sounded like the makings of a horror movie. Use your senses, young one, he snapped. You can feel his imminent death if you'll focus for a devil-damned minute. Hey, I just found out Santa Claus is real and that I almost killed him. Cut me some slack, old man. She rested a hand on Santa's chest. He was breathing, but barely. And how can I feel his death coming on? I'm not a necromancer. Gaston rolled his eyes. Before the supernatural world order came into power and created our laws, vampires killed their victims. We drained them to the cusp of death, stopping just before the heart ceased to beat. Sensing that cusp is an innate part of you, an instinct. I can feel it from here. Focus, Jane, for once in your undead life. She bared her fangs and hissed at the old as dirt vampire, but he didn't even flinch. Fine, I'll focus. But you don't have to be such a meanie McMeanie pants about it. It's not like I did this on purpose. Why did it feel like she'd just been assigned Tim Allen's role in a darker version of the Santa Claus movie? Whatever happened, she was sure as shit not putting on this guy's coat. Pressing her lips together, she stared at the Fae's waning green aura and relaxed her mind. The moment she stopped her thoughts, her body recoiled. Sure enough, her instinct told her this guy wasn't just caroling at death's door. He'd picked the lock and was about to step inside. What are we going to do? We can't let Santa die. She rose to her feet and dusted the dirt from her jeans. Oh, I know. We can call the necromancer Jasmine. Once he passes, she can grab his soul and shove it back inside his body. He'll at least last long enough to do his thing on Christmas Eve, right? Then the elves can elect a new Santa. A zombie cannot perform his duties, and the Fae cannot elect a new Santa. You must turn him, or there will be hell to pay. She chewed her bottom lip and stared at her victim. I don't want to be the gal who ruins the holiday, but I can't sire Santa Claus. He's all light and joy. I can't turn him into a nightmare before Christmas. Ruins the holiday? Gaston looked at her like she had a second set of fangs growing from her gums. Christmas will be the least of our worries. This man is the ruler of all Fae, their king. If you don't turn him, not only will you be charged with murder before the SWO, and staked, I might add, but you'll start a war between the Fae and the vampires. He clutched her shoulders and turned her toward Santa. Now, get down there and make him undead before he's really dead. Satan's balls. Why does every little mistake a soup makes become the harbinger for war? Gaston crossed his arms. This mistake was not little, but you can remedy it. But if I turn him, he'll be a vampire, not a fae. Will they even still accept him? He'll be a hybrid, which is better than dead. We'll deal with the ramifications once his transformation is complete, but you are running out of time. Turn him now, Jane. She fisted her trembling hands and gazed at the mess she'd made. Leave it to Jane Devereaux to find out Santa is real, and he's the ruler of the Fae, and then kill him, all in the same night. I can't be his sire. He's way too important, and I'm a newbie vampire. You should do it. You've sired people before, so you know what you're doing. I'm not the one who ran him over. This is your problem, ma chère. You must take responsibility for your actions. She growled low in her throat and kneeled next to the dying Saint Nick. If Ethan were here, he'd do it. I'd expect nothing less from him. He's your husband. I am not. But you're my grandpa, right? Kinda. That's got to count for something. I sired your sire. If I am your grandfather, that would make Ethan your father. Are you sure you want to tread down that path? Ew. Yeah, that's a kink I could never get into. Let's not go there. The vampires didn't actually need oxygen. She sucked in a deep breath to steel herself. Okay, I can do this. Today will go down in history as the day Jane Devereaux saved Christmas. After she nearly ruined it. Whatever. She leaned down and bit into Santa's neck. Absorb his essence as you drink, Gaston said, and use your magic to form a connection with him. She only managed 2 sips of blood, and she hoped to Hades that was enough because damn. He tastes like saltwater taffy, peppermint and Coke Zero with an extra heaping of high fructose corn syrup. He is a sugar fae, so that makes sense. Their entire diet consists only of sweets. Did you feel the connection form? She wiped her mouth with the back of her hand and scraped her tongue across her top teeth, trying to get rid of the saccharine flavor. I think so. Good. Now bite your wrist and get your blood into his mouth. Quickly, you're running out of time. She sank her fangs into her arm and squeezed with her other hand. Vampire blood was as gooey as molasses, so she had to force herself to bleed. Once a thick drop pooled on her skin, she pressed her wrist to Santa's mouth. He didn't respond. He's not drinking. She rubbed her wrist over his lips, staining his pristine white mustache and beard. Oops. Give it time. Gaston loomed behind her, his tension rolling off him in waves, which made Jane even more nervous about what she was doing. Damning Father fucking Christmas to darkness. Satan's balls on a silver platter. She was in way over her head now. Santa's bloodshot eyes flew open, and he latched onto her wrist, sucking like a Hoover on overdrive. Ouch! That's enough, Gaston said. He'll drain you if you allow it. Jane pried her arm away, and Santa's wounds healed in seconds. He sat up, rubbing his head until his gaze locked on her. Ho, ho, hello. What do you want for Christmas, young lady? He held up a finger before she could answer. Wait, don't tell me. Jane Devereaux, your Christmas wish is to have your father accept you for who you are. That's not a gift I can give, I'm afraid. How about a pony instead? Jane's eyes widened, her mouth falling slack as Santa stiffened and fell backward into the dirt. What the? How did he? She was speechless, and Jane Devereaux was never speechless. Her dad was coming to New Orleans for Christmas. It would be the first time he'd visited her new home, the first time he would meet Ethan. It would also be the first time she told him she was a vampire and that she was married. And Santa knew. Holy Christmas cookies. Gaston paced toward Santa's head and slid his arms beneath his shoulders. Grab his feet. We'll put him in the back seat and take him home. The death sleep will keep him under until sunset tomorrow. Jane blinked and scrambled to her feet to help Gaston get her new charge into the car. Though he was as bulky as a grizzly bear, their vampire strength made lifting him a breeze. Actually getting him into the back seat was another story. Jane climbed in first, dragging him by the boots, which were not fur-lined like she'd expected. One of them came off in her hands, revealing a green sock with an image of whom she hoped was Mrs. Claus, wearing a red corset and thong, posed like a pin-up girl. He wore jeans and a blue flannel shirt with motorcycle boots and a leather jacket. As she took in his outfit, she realized his pants were undone, only half his shirt tucked in the front. Why was Santa Claus standing by a tree near the edge of City Park anyway? Surely he wasn't. She lifted the untucked edge of his flannel and dropped it like it was made of pure hellfire. Oh man, he was taking a piss against the tree when I hit him. She just had to look, didn't she? Now, she'd seen Santa's Yule log, and that was a sight she could not unsee no matter how badly she wanted to. This is so not how I imagined Father Christmas. He's off duty. Gaston shoved him the rest of the way in and closed the door, banging it against his head. Good thing he's unconscious. She slipped his boot back on his foot and moved to climb into the front seat. He could deal with his own zipper when he woke up. She wasn't going anywhere near his candy cane. Oh no, ma chère, Gaston wagged a finger at her. You're not riding with me. You can't expect me to trek home in these heels, Jane gestured to her stilettos. These boots were not made for walking. He laughed. You're not walking, you're riding. He jerked his head toward a big black Harley-Davidson parked near the spot where Santa had lain. What in hell's name? That wasn't there before. She crept toward the bike, and it rolled backward, almost as if it were shy. It had a wide leather seat and a black satin finish on the engine parts. Not too flashy, but the sucker looked faster than a vampire on his way to an all-you-can-eat drink blood buffet. Is it a magical motorcycle or something? Or something. I'll drive Genevieve, you ride Blitzen home. He named his bike after a reindeer? She glanced at the side of the gas tank, and sure enough, the name Blitzen was scrawled across it in bright red paint. There's a problem with your plan, man. I don't know how to ride a motorcycle. And it wasn't something she could learn in 15 minutes, especially when this machine seemed almost alive. Gaston arched a brow. You can ride a horse, can you not? Well, duh. I am a Texas girl, raised on a ranch before my dad became governor. Blitzen should be no different. He opened the driver's side door. I've got news for you, Louis. Motorcycles and horses are not the same. You may need to find your meals somewhere other than Bourbon Street for a while. I think the alcohol is affecting your brain. Sadly, I am way too sober at the moment, and I'm surprised you can't see through the glamour. Try touching it. Touching the motorcycle? Touching Blitzen. Okay. She reached a hand toward the bike and stroked the handlebar, but it didn't feel like cool steel. Instead, it was warm and was that fur? She blinked, and the magic cloaking Blitzen slipped away, revealing an honest to goat cheese reindeer. Antlers and everything. Whoa. Blitzen blew a puff of breath through his nose and stamped his hoof, looking none too happy that she'd just flattened his owner. Hey, boy, she rubbed his velvety nose. I'm sorry about hitting Santa. He's going to be okay, though, I hope. You want to come home with us and we'll get you something to eat? The reindeer grunted, which Jane took as a yes, so she texted Ethan, meet us at Gaston's and bring carrots. Lots of carrots. He replied with a thumbs up emoji, and she grinned. Her husband had learned long ago not to question her weirdness, but boy, did she have some explaining to do. To Ethan, and then to the magistrate tomorrow night. Wouldn't that be a hoot and a half? Or possibly a death sentence, but she wouldn't worry about that right now. She was about to ride a freaking reindeer. There you go. Chapter 1 of License to Bite. Thanks for joining me and listening. I appreciate it. And release day is tomorrow, so get ready and you'll be able to read the whole book. Thanks.